Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Rain Whalen.
And I'm inside Lewin Davis.
Oh my god. Play me something from inside Lewin Davis. It's funny that you bring that up, because I don't know if you've seen, but all the set photos have been leaking of Timothée Chalamet playing Bob Dylan in that new Bob Dylan biopic.
Yeah.
He looks good.
I mean,
think
we'll
he
see
can
how
pull
it
it off.
goes. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. He's done everything but meet the man.
Yeah.
Like, have you met him? He's like, no. I'm like, all right, I guess that's one way to go. But of course, I wouldn't want to either, and it's because like I've seen him in interviews, and he just seems listen, I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan. Okay,
Well,
I think Blood on the Tracks is one of the greatest albums of all time. Okay, but he just seems insufferable to be around. I wouldn't like it at all. So,
and the movie's being directed by James Mangold, so I mean, James was probably like, "Hey, you don't have to meet him. It's fine."
Here's this is a fun little sneak peek into next season. We are doing a quasi Bob Dylan biopic next season. So,
We are? Is it on your list?
Who plays Bob Dylan? 5 people. So that'll be.
We're doing that one.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So that's kind of cool. And we'll see how this one goes. I'm skeptical, but I saw someone film, like, probably not supposed to, but they were filming like while they were shooting the movie, and it was Edward Norton, and he was doing his thing.
He's Pete Seeger.
Yeah. So I don't know. It might be really cool. I don't know. I think James Mangold, I think he needs to catch his breath a little bit after Indiana Jones, so maybe he'll.
Well, I don't know. Maybe this will be the movie that bounces him back. Like,
maybe, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is the palate cleanser.
Like I was saying in my brief little review when I announced on the podcast I saw it. Like, it's fine. James has really good direction, but there's too many cooks in the kitchen for the script. Like, way too many. Like, I think there was like 4 writers, James being one of them.
It's a lot.
Which is one too many, in my opinion. I mean, you just watch it for Harrison Ford, you know. But I just saw on the cast list, our boy Boyd Holbrook is going to be Johnny Cash, which I think will be really, really interesting to see.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love Boyd Holbrook. I mean, the Corinthian on the Sandman, like, so nice.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it'll be like 6 years before we see it, so we got time.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, everyone. I just want to say real quick, I'm not going to speak for you, buddy, because I know you don't like that. Thank you to everyone who sat through and watched our 200th episode last week. It has 20 views right now, which
that's quite a bit. Sounds okay. So you fucking assholes. So like, here's how, like, I don't understand. Like, I just don't get it, because like I felt that episode, which was fine, I thought it was a little bit of a mess, yet I give you guys pure gold sometimes. Okay, guys, like, we talk about like some phenomenal, like The Wolf House, for instance. Like, it's one of my favorite movies, and it gets like 8 views. And then here we get twice as many on this. I know still we're talking about nothing, because, like, even though I'm very grateful for everyone who listens and watches and all that stuff, because I can't believe people choose to do that. That's still super crazy to me. But like come on, Like,
Well,
it's so
well,
crazy.
so I'm looking at the analytics on YouTube, and according to the first 5 days of it being out, number one is part one of our series, at 28 views. Number two is The Dark Knight at
Yeah,
27, and then
sure.
number three, our 200th episode at 20. You
So
want to know
crazy.
what's
Go ahead.
number eight?
Mm,
Locke, 4 views.
yeah. Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying too. Because like Locke is so good and like deserves more love. But that's okay. I just don't get it. You know, I don't understand. You guys listen whatever you want, to. You know, you guys pick and choose whichever ones you want to listen to. That's fine. I know these are going to do well because they're popular. They've been
Yeah.
in the the culture for longer, and it's like they're more substantial. So I get that. It's kind of like our most popular episode ever, which is Shaun of the Dead. Like that, you know, that's
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
gangbusters. You know, maybe even still. I don't know if people still are watching, but
Well, and I don't think we'll ever be able to top that.
no,
Like,
no,
unless we
that's like
do like,
2,000 views. That's so crazy.
yeah, I know, man. Unless we do like, fuck. I don't know. Maybe Dune Part 2. I don't
We'll
know.
have to do something like, I don't know, like we'll have to do like Fern Gully or something. You know what I mean? Like something that, you know, people.
Wait, isn't that just the first Avatar movie?
It's behind me if you guys can see. Quick pause, see if you can find it. Anyway, yeah. So I don't know. I don't get it, but I do a little bit. But
Well, but clearly it was entertaining enough of people watching us sit there and be like, "Oh, I really like that." Yeah.
oh yeah, hey, cool.
Yeah. And just being quiet for a little bit. Oh,
You know, like I really like how Mark Hamill. Yeah. Does the cape detach from the mask? How does that work? Yeah, still.
Oh shit. Oh man.
What are the laws here? What are the rules? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did
But
well.
yeah, no, I
Better
just
than I
wanted to
thought.
point that out. Yeah, yeah. Especially considering I had to re-edit the video as we were talking about off mic. I had to re-edit since the first edit didn't pan out, which was a little disappointing because I put a little bit of hard work into that.
Now,
But
okay, before we get started, I have a recommendation and then I have a quick other stupid thing. So,
okay.
the recommendation. Guys,
Okay.
for the past few days, I have been listening to Anthony Bourdain's book, Kitchen Confidential, on Audible.
Uh-huh.
I love Anthony Bourdain. I think he's amazing. It's so sad. Anyway, he's tremendous. I think he's the coolest guy in the world. There is a documentary on Max called Roadrunner. I highly recommend people watch it. It's all about him and about his life and his career and whatever. This book came out in like 2001, I think, and I have no aspirations to be a chef or a cook or be in the restaurant business or be anywhere near food. But it's so captivating and he's so entertaining and he's so intelligent and he's so fascinating, and I love the way he writes and I love the way he's putting these stories together and he's putting all this information together and it's digestible for someone who doesn't know anything about the business or anything about being a chef or working in kitchens or anything like that. Highly recommend. It has been so much fun. I'm not even halfway through yet because I only listen to it in the car. So, but it's like I kind of don't want to go the speed limit because it's too good and I want to keep going. So, Kitchen
Yeah.
Confidential, you gotta check it out. It's the coolest thing.
Yeah. I mean, I just recently learned of a recipe that he did, like the easiest sort of like grilled cheese kind of sandwich and apparently he made it to be easy, that anyone can make it. And
Yeah.
it makes me want to try mortadella. I've never had mortadella meat before, so I don't know.
I know. And we never do this because we always forget, because I don't know, I don't know, we're just not good at this. I don't know. But I've been watching all of these movies on Max, by the way, for our series.
Yes,
So,
yes, yeah, all four.
yeah, they're on there. So that's where I've been
Yeah.
watching these. So just in case you haven't watched it yet, or you want to revisit it, or whatever, and you have a Max subscription, go for it.
Yeah.
Do I recommend buying this one? Well, we're about to find
out. Yeah. Before we go in, I guess I kind of have some recommendations.
Let's go.
First off, the most recent thing that I've watched is actually above my head, right there. The documentary Lynch Oz. That was really cool. Gives you a little more insight into David Lynch. They have a bunch of other filmmakers kind of talking about their impressions and their comparisons between The Wizard of Oz and Lynch's films. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. David Lowery was the last filmmaker that does a bit, and truth be told, his part's the best. Just because
Yeah.
I love listening to David Lowery speak about film and like how he feels about film. But yeah, it was still really good. I don't know where you can stream it. I bought it on the Jonas Films Criterion Collection, which I had pre-ordered for months, and then quickly realized it was at our local Barnes and Noble. And I was like, man, I waited for months. I could have just came here when it came out. But oh well.
I think you may be able to rent it maybe on Apple or something.
Okay.
Maybe Amazon Prime. But so what's funny is about you had mentioned earlier before we were recording, you had mentioned that John Waters is on the documentary, which I love John Waters.
His part's really cool too.
He has my favorite take on The Wizard of Oz. He's talked about it before that I've seen in interviews or whatever. And I don't know if he mentioned it in the documentary, but when he saw The Wizard of Oz for the first time, he was so disappointed and so upset because he was like, why would she want to leave? Why would she want to go home? Because that place is dreary and sad and boring. And then here you have all of these fantastical things going on and all these colors and all this adventure and all this fun. And he was just like, I just didn't get it. I didn't understand why she wanted to go home so bad. And I like that. It's very John Waters for that perspective.
He didn't mention that, but he did mention how the villains of Wizard of Oz are so captivating, and Lynch's villains are very captivating. And it was really cool. They do mention how he does not like to answer questions, that it is just the way it is. And then one final thing, you talked about a book. So I've been actually reading this book series called The Shades of Magic, that I kind of found on my own volition. But since I've been getting back into reading a little bit, Ashley's been telling me a lot about this series that she's been reading or has read. She's read it completely. And it's 3 separate book series that all kind of intertwine.
Okay.
And I told Ashley, I was like, when I'm done with this book series, which thankfully my book series is only 3 books. I'm on the 2nd book now. I told Ashley, I was like, I'll read the Throne of Glass series, if any of our listeners know that. And that book series is, let me see, I'm looking at Ashley's bookshelf. 2, 4, I think it's 8 books, the Throne of Glass series. And then that leads into the next series, which is called A Court of Thorns and Roses. And that series is 5 books, which then leads to the Crescent City series, and that's 3 books. So this is like 16. Yeah, I'm going to willingly do this and obliterate my mind for the next probably few months.
Okay.
So that'll be fun.
Let's hope so.
But I mean, my wife swears by them, that they're really, really good, really well written. And you know what? I'm curious because, again, I've been getting back into reading, and I want to see what my wife is freaking out over. So,
Sure.
But anyway, wrapping all that up now. So here we are, everyone, back to our end of season series, part 2 of our Matrix saga, The Matrix Reloaded. Now, Jeremy, this was a first watch for you.
Yeah.
So what were your first impressions?
My first impressions were, it's, what did I write down? I wrote down, so, okay, while I was watching it, I looked at the time and it was like, okay, this movie is a little over 2 hours. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As
I
I was
think a little
watching
bit
it,
longer than the first one.
I thought it doesn't have to be that long because, for instance, Trinity, this is in the beginning. All right, Trinity is falling out of that building, right, and they're shooting, and it takes approximately 30 minutes for her to fall and for her to get shot and I was just thinking, I was like, man, the Wachowskis are feeling themselves with this one. It is oversaturated with style and with this, I guess, this, like, I don't know, trademarked Matrix aesthetic and the slow mo and the bullet time and the, you know, um, obviously the standout was the highway scene. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
Which took them 3 months to film.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it wasn't as, to me, it wasn't as redundant as like the Trinity falling out of the building thing was, because not only we have to sit through that twice, by the way, which I was like, no, thank you. But I thought it was just too long, right? I thought
Yeah.
the Neo versus Smiths fight, I thought that was too long also. And I mean, listen, I understand that it's 2003. I understand things are limited at this point.
I
But
know exactly where you're going.
there was a significant difference between CGI Neo and Keanu Reeves. You know what I mean? Like when it would cut to Keanu Reeves from CGI Keanu Reeves, it was almost like, oh, right, I forgot.
Oh.
This movie isn't animated. I completely forgot. Um, and that was just how it looks and how it feels. So once we get to the actual meat, bones, potatoes of the whole
Yeah,
thing, we'll discuss. You're gonna have to do the synopsis, by the way.
that's fine. I was fully prepared to. So, okay. So The Matrix Reloaded.
Okay.
According, because I looked this up today, according to it, this is a few months after the events of the first film. Neo has been solidified as essentially, just because I want an excuse to say it, he's been sort of solidified as the Lisan al Gaib, the Messiah.
It is Lisan al-Gaib.
Yeah, yeah. People refer to him as the One. He takes full advantage of his new oneness while he's in the Matrix. But the plot of this movie revolves around, and I'm gonna say this now, revolves around the most interesting concept for this movie, which I wish the Wachowski they had it. It was teed up perfectly, and then the result just. But anyway, the film's central thing for this one, for the synopsis, is: do we really have choices in our lives? Is it predetermined, or are the decisions we make our own choices? And so the film revolves around this this act of, do we make our own choices? Do we anyway, we get that a lot with Neo. He keeps having reoccurring dreams of Trinity dying. He then the last human civilization, Zion, gets word that the machines are tunneling to them, and they will be there in, what is it, like
It was like
72
36
hours or
hours.
something.
It was like, yeah, it was more than 24, but less than 48.
Yeah. So we have a ticking clock. And then Smith is back, but he's been unplugged. So he's essentially a loose program becoming a virus, which I don't know if you picked up on that because they double down on it in the next one. Great. But he's becoming a virus, infecting everyone, and they're becoming him. And this is where we get, I mean, that's really the synopsis, to be honest. I mean, I gave up halfway through. Because like I was saying, there's a lot of build in this movie, but the Wachowskis tee up perfectly, but it just falls flat. Like, one, the our lore dump towards the end of the movie, we meet the architect. This is the 6th version of the Matrix, and the one will always happen. Yeah. And like, that's awesome, but it goes fucking nowhere. The doubling down on, do we really have choice? Is it cause and effect? Like that, it's so good. But they don't stick the landing. Yeah. At all. And this is for me why I wanted to do this series, because this is where the quality starts to decline. Because the Wachowskis did a great job of not trying to replicate what they did with the first Matrix film, of introducing these new concepts, giving us a more well-rounded, lived-in world with the introduction of Zion, the architect, the hierarchy within the last human colony of Zion. All great setup, all great build, but like, it goes fucking nowhere. Like we meet the architect, and also, sidebar, in an alternate timeline, I would have loved for them to actually get who they initially had for the architect, which was Sean Connery. Like, they originally offered it to Sean Connery, but he didn't understand the story, so he didn't want to do it.
I mean, that's fair.
So he chose to do League of Extraordinary Gentlemen instead. Yeah. And then that's what made him retire from acting altogether. But anyway, you know, and it like, so they build up the architect when we meet him as essentially, you know, as he says it, the father of the Matrix. But the thing that I don't think sticks the landing is making him so fucking pretentious. And his speech, the vis-a-vis love, you know,
okay.
Like,
so I agree with you that it was the hardest to follow was the architect, because I'm like, well, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he's saying. Right. Yeah. And yeah, I was picking up on this idea of choice, and who has choice, and who has dominion over their own lives, and who's pulling the strings, right? Because you have all of these people that are around Neo that, I mean, when you think about it, they're not people, right? Or if they are people, they're being programmed to do certain things, right? It's like the Oracle said. The Oracle is also a program, right? So the Oracle is not a person either. But the Oracle explains that, you know, like, there was a program to for these birds, right? There's a program for the sky, there's a program for the wind, there's a program for everything. And then now you start to think, it's like, okay, well, is the program sort of like pushing Neo towards a certain path? Is Neo doing exactly what the program wants him to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is
Which
Neo
is
making his
yes.
own decisions, right? Because he is unplugged, right? And he's
Mm-hmm.
choosing, maybe, to go in and out of the Matrix willingly, right? Cool.
No.
The movie's like, who fucking cares? And not
Well,
us.
the movie's like, he's never had a choice. This is always how it was going to be. But instead, like, okay, rewatching this again, because I've seen this movie multiple times,
Mhm.
and it finally clicks with me that Neo, he makes a selfish decision in saving Trinity.
You're right.
Because the architect says the path is you will be sent to the source.
Mm-hmm.
Zion will be destroyed because this is the 6th time we destroyed Zion. You will choose men and women to rebuild Zion, and then the cycle restarts. Or you can go that way and doom humanity and the machines essentially just for love. And like the film tries to paint that as like, oh, he's doing this for love. But it's like, no, it's fucking selfish. Because like literally what he says when he gets out of the Matrix is, Morpheus, we have 24 hours, and then Zion is destroyed.
So yes, love, but love that's not earned, because where did it come from? So, okay, this is the problem I had at the end of the first Matrix, right? Because
Right.
I felt like Neo and Trinity maybe said a few sentences to one another, and when they did speak to each other, it was about the mission. It was about whatever, right?
Right.
It was always about, what the next steps are, how to defeat their enemy, how to save humankind, all of that stuff. And so this time it was all about their love story. And I don't know, maybe I don't like to think that I'm like super jaded about this sort of stuff, but I think like in this film, it just seems sort of like, I don't know, it doesn't seem genuine to me. Like I didn't feel it, like I don't feel like, or I just don't care. But I it's not that I don't care because I don't want to care. I do want to care. It's just that I don't feel there's a connection between Trinity and Neo besides them telling me that there is one.
No, I agree. And also a little tease for the final episode, you're gonna be so mad. And that's all I'm gonna say. But no, I agree, because like, look, like, yes, the Matrix is synonymous with Keanu Reeves as Neo and also Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity. But this love story does kind of come out of nowhere. It does sort of seem like, after doing part 1 of this, it does kind of seem like the Wachowskis were like, oh yeah, she's in love with him, and there we go.
Yeah.
And so it seems like with this movie they had to double down on that and be like, okay, they're deeply in love now, which was kind of annoying rewatching this. Like when he sees her at the Zion party and his whole like, I've missed you, and she's like, yeah, I know. Like come on, man. Like you literally defy the laws of gravity when you're in the Matrix. Like, come on.
That was also sort of like, I mean, it's fine, like that's fine. Like his powers don't really bother me that much. I did see a lot of criticism about him just being this sort of superhuman, and the only way for there to be stakes in the film is for him not to be there. right? Because he is this all-powerful, superhero, right? But
he's the Lisan Al Gaib.
he's Lisan Al Gaib. You're exactly right. He's computer Jesus, and he needs to be far away for us to care about the danger, right? Because if he's there, and he's going to save the day because nothing can affect him, right?
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, there are moments in the film where he does show weakness, right? There's, I literally moments ago just complained about the Neo and Smith's fight, but near the end of that fight, he's getting tired, right?
Mm-hmm.
Agent Smith will never get tired, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They were at that place with Monica Bellucci, and he bleeds a little.
Yeah. It's with the Merovingian,
Mm-hmm.
and he blocks a sword with his
That's
like
right.
a little pump, and it makes him bleed.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, I want to pivot just for a second because
Sure.
I'm worried that people are gonna think we're just dumping on the movie. Which look, to be honest, I do enjoy this movie. I mean, obviously, number one will always be the best.
Sure.
How I would rank them, and I will reiterate this maybe in the next two episodes, but it's 1, 2, 4, then 3. I truly think 3 is the worst, but we'll get there.
How exciting for next time.
But I really do enjoy this one. I mean, this one has a lot of really good action. It seems like the Wachowskis really doubled down on doing a martial arts film mixed in with a sci-fi thriller, which I really, really enjoy. I could have used less PlayStation 2 graphics for the CGI.
Sure.
Which, of course, I mean, again, at the time, 2003, that's revolutionary. The fact that they could create this fight scene purely out of CGI and make Hugo Weaving and Keanu Reeves almost look like their live action counterparts.
Almost.
Almost. It's off. I mean, now being 2024, seeing this 21-year-old movie, you're like, oh, good God. But again, I give that a little bit of grace because, again, in 2003, that was revolutionary.
Well, and the multiple Agent Smiths is slick. I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
None of that bothered me. And really, honestly, the Agent Smith fight with Neo doesn't bother me so much. Is that I just think it just was too long.
It is a little too long.
Probably to show us, the audience, I'm just not thinking about this. It's long because we have to see that Neo has limits, right? Yeah. That's important, right?
I agree with that, yeah. And I also think the Wachowskis were really doubling down on the technology. I'm going to use that a lot. Maybe I should do a counter. I'm gonna stop saying doubling down, but I think they were really utilizing. There we go. Utilizing the technology that they had, because then they were like, well, we could do this whole fight CGI, and if we could do that, then we can probably stretch it out, which I get. But yeah, there are moments I'm like, did we really need Neo jumping in the air, slow motion, spinning that pole around? No, we didn't. We didn't need that. Or at least we didn't need it slow-mo. Just let him jump in the air, then land, and keep kicking ass.
Yeah. There are things that they updated that I liked, which was the exiting the Matrix graphics, like when they pick up the telephone. They've enhanced a few things that make the visual language of the Matrix better or slicker or, more visually appealing. Which I thought was cool. That that would probably be the better use of it's a sequel. Let's maybe not oversaturate, but let's make things a little bit better, right? Let's make things a little bit easier to look at. But instead, I think there are moments where they they thought they loved this, they're going to love it more because it's in here more, right? And that's not really it, right? But that being said, it's not a bad movie at all. It is.
No,
It's
no, no,
still
not at all, not
fun.
at all.
It's enjoyable. Did I understand everything all the time? No. Did the Zion stuff was kind of boring, just a
You
little bit,
know,
but it needed to be there, right?
well,
And I get that.
and and again, this is something that I really applaud the movie for. And again, like you just said, it's not a bad movie. I mean, critics gave it like I think it has like a 76 on Rotten Tomatoes,
Mhm.
and pretty much saying that like it's not as good as the first one, but it's still a good sequel. And then they kind of changed their tune with the third one.
Well, Roger Ebert gave it a
But that's
three and
for
a
next
half.
week.
Roger Ebert gave
Out
it
of
three and a
4?
half out of 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
He really enjoyed it. I was reading it today, and I love. All right, hang on. Let me read this to you because this kind of shows his headspace in the moment, right? Which I really liked. Um, so he asks a lot of questions, right? He says questions arise such as, is there no more effective way to generate power? And why give the humans dreams when they would generate just as much energy if comatose? And why create such a complex virtual world for each and every one of them when they could all be given the same illusion and none's the wiser? And why is the dreamer him or herself occupying the same body in virtual reality as the one asleep in the pod? But never mind. Um, so like, of course, he's talking about like the things in the first film that they've established
Mm-hmm.
that and of course, when you start thinking about it like that, you're like, he's right because like, why do any of this? Because it's not interesting, right? But I
Yeah.
like that he's sort of like, in a way, he's saying you can forgive all these questions because that's not the point. The point is the world is set in this way, so let's let's see what would arise in that scenario, right? What if
Mm-hmm.
your world were not what you think it was, right? Or what
Mm-hmm.
if you found out that the world you're living in is just a simulation, right? Which has
Right.
fucked a lot of people up forever, right?
Yeah.
And I wish, like you were saying in the beginning, I wish they would have stuck with and sort of honed in on these philosophical topics, especially with what's his face with Monica Bellucci. You said his name, and I already don't remember.
The Merovingian.
Right. He has his own unique philosophy, and then Morpheus has his own unique philosophy. Of course, it's guided by a prophecy he believes to be true, right?
Yeah, he's the Stilgar of this
He's the
universe.
Stilgar, right? You have Neo that's trying to, you know, he's trying to process his responsibility, but he's also trying to follow the prophecy while also trying to stay outside of it and try not to let all of these responsibilities and all of these decisions sort of drive him crazy. And then you have someone like Link, right?
Yeah.
At first, I wrote in my notes at first. I think I deleted it, but in my notes, I was like, "Where did he come from? He's not in the first movie."
So,
Because I believe they go to and from Zion, and they've been doing that. Because I thought at first they hadn't made it to Zion yet, and I go, "Where did this guy come from?" Right?
yeah. Well, and also on a behind the scenes kind of thing. Apparently, the actor who played Tank in the first movie wanted more money
Oh,
to come back for a sequel, and they're like, no. And apparently, started sending like death threats to the Wachowskis, and they're like, "Yeah, you're gone." And so
whoops.
I think they killed off Tank. I think it's like a throwaway line because I think Link is married to their sister, and I think she says, "I lost 2 brothers to that ship."
I
So,
see. Okay.
so I think they killed off Tank, and honestly, I like Link a little bit more, to be honest.
Yes. I was going to tell you his name, Harold Perrineau. Harold Perrineau, whatever. He's on Oz, which is how I know him. The show, it's marvelous. Everyone should watch Oz. It's terrifying, but it's good. He's sort of the main character. He's sort of the omniscient. He's the omniscient narrator. He tells you who everybody is, in every episode, and he sort of like interjects with his thoughts and what's going on, and what life in a prison is like every once in a while. But he's also a character in the show, so he does both, which I really like. Anyway, he's a phenomenal actor. I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah, he was also Mercutio in Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. But yeah, yeah, so like the Merovingian is also like a really interesting character, because he's described as an old program, and and he's apparently lived through these previous iterations of the Matrix, which also begs a lot of questions too, which is something about 4 that I like, but I'm going to save that for later till we get there.
Of course.
But yeah, man. So back to the philosophical stuff. Yeah, the Wachowskis set this up so good. Like, it's so well written, and so, because like the first movie, if the first movie had any sort of philosophical questions to answer, it was you could never really know what's your reality. And this one, the appearance of choice is so good. And if they just honed in just a little bit more, just a little bit more, I think they would have landed it. I think the movie would have had a bigger impact instead of just fucking not. But I mean,
if I were as invested, okay, I would be devastated to find out that this whole thing about Neo being the one, and Neo being computer Jesus, and he's going to save all of humanity, and he's going to defeat the machines and release and save all humankind. And it's like, it's kind of just bullshit, and it happens all the time, and he's not special, and this isn't like. I would be like so good. I'd be super bummed, I'd be like, well, then then what's the point of any of this, right? Until I think what's gonna maybe hopefully moving forward, and I'm starting to think maybe not, but he's able to stop the machines in real life, right? Or what we perceive to be real life, and I don't know, like, which is cool on the movie's part, because right now I like that I'm not sure of what is reality, right? Because like in the Matrix, of course, he can do all this, bullshit Superman stuff. But then when we're outside of the Matrix and we're in what we perceive to be real life, he's able to feel and stop the machines sort of telenetically, right? That's not a word, but he's able to stop the machine. Thank you. And we're sort of leaving that there for now, because I know in a Pirates of the Caribbean way, they did these two at the same time. And also in a Back to the Future way, they did these at the same time. So they're setting up dominoes to knock them down later. So,
well,
I'm hoping that's important later. If it's not important later, then it's like, what is any of this for?
Okay.
Try not to spoil it, but yeah.
Okay. Kind of yes, but kind of no.
Okay.
They set it up, and it has I would say, 10% payoff in the next movie.
Wow, that's wonderful. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Who is he being hooked up to at the end? I kind of didn't understand that either.
Okay. So somehow Neo can use his powers outside of the Matrix.
Yes.
Which also begs the question, because I heard this theory and I really, really like it. Is that just another layer of the simulation? It's not. Because, again, doesn't get paid off. Anyway. So he's comatose. So essentially they hook him back up to the Matrix. In an attempt to maybe save his life. The guy who's hooked up next to him is Bane, who's been possessed by Smith.
I see. So Smith took over his code or whatever.
Well, and essentially, because when the humans plug into the Matrix, it's their brain. So he essentially rerouted his brain, and now Smith is in the real world.
I see.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Okay. Because
that will get paid off next movie.
I like the idea of Agent Smith being able to take over other people, right? Or other programs or whatever, right? Like, to be honest, I don't know if they're real people or programs who he's taking over. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I assume some of them are real people because everyone's plugged in.
Do you want me to answer that question?
No.
Okay, good.
Because I like the speculation. Also, I like, dude, like, this movie would have been, I don't know, 1,000,000 times better if when he stopped that machine, right? Like the squid machine, if he stopped it telepathically and everyone sort of looked really confused and was like, what's going on? And then someone gets unplugged and you're right, it's another layer. Done. This is the coolest movie of all time, right? It would be so interesting if, like, being unplugged, waking up in a pod, you're technically still plugged in, I'm in, because that would answer so many questions I had. Because you'd be like, how is he even able to walk? Wouldn't he have no muscles to do that or whatever? And how does he know how to talk? How does he know how to do anything? Right? It would answer so many questions. Yet these gals, they're these Wachowskis, they're not making it easy. Okay.
I think you might be giving them way too much credit. I don't even think they thought of that concept.
I know.
I mean,
it would have been so cool, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no. I agree. It would have been really cool to see. And it's a good theory, but again, especially with the release of the fourth one.
Oh, I know it's not possible. I know that's not what's happening. It would have been very interesting, and I would have really liked that.
Yeah. Now, you know what? Something I didn't realize. Well, now that I know who this is, I didn't realize they utilize him so much. One of the new agents, one of the upgraded agents. Do you know who that is?
No.
That is Chad Stahelski, one of the co-directors of the John Wick series.
Oh, he's the stunt coordinator. Right? Yeah.
And he's been the stunt coordinator, I think, on the last three. So this one, Revolutions, and then Resurrections.
He also did other stuff with Keanu Reeves because Keanu Reeves loved him and took him everywhere because obviously
he was and he was also Keanu's stunt double for the first film.
There you go.
And then Chad, of course, has now graced us with the John Wick series. Yeah, it's really cool. I think stuntmen turning into directors is really cool because, I mean, look at David Leitch with what he did with Deadpool 2 and
right.
Bullet Train. Did you know, sidebar, David Leitch co-directed the first John Wick movie, and then after the success of that, it seems like Chad took over the last 3.
Interesting.
So, but like David's like uncredited as a co-director. It's weird.
Yeah,
But anyway,
but that also like it also disappoints me that there's not. I mean, there's plenty of fighting in this film.
mm-hmm.
I do like, because while I'm sort of articulating my thoughts, because I like the fighting, I like the martial arts, right?
Uh-huh.
But what I like about it is just that it's cool and it's fighting and it's action, right?
Right.
But it's a little too, because again, it's a computer program, it's a little too slick. It's a little too choreographed. But of course, I'm spoiled because I live in a world where I have not only seen all the John Wick movies, but I've seen the Raid movies. And I mean, you know what I mean? And it just completely blows your mind, right?
Right.
When you
Right.
see really, really good action movies with the best hand to hand combat fighting choreography you've ever seen, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm spoiled. Like at this point, those movies hadn't come out yet, so I would, of course, think that this is like super cool and super stylized and really interesting. And
So, can I tell you something? This isn't really off topic, but can I tell you something that came from this movie that I will love forever?
yeah,
And that is the video game Enter the Matrix,
okay,
where you can play as Niobe, that monster Jada Pinkett Smith's character, or her lieutenant, and it's the events that lead up to them catching up with Morpheus and everyone on the freeway.
I see.
And that game is so fucking cool, dude.
Is it cool?
We rented it growing up because it was I think they made it for Xbox if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And we rented it, and I couldn't get past the first level because it was just too much fun. Because like you got to control the bullet time.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was so sick. I wish I could find it. I'd love to replay it again, but I want them to make another Matrix game. I think that'd be really sick.
I was going to ask because it seems like the perfect opportunity, right?
Well, they did kind of.
Okay.
So we're going to briefly become a gaming podcast just real quick.
Okay.
So there's this engine that a lot of game developers use to help create their games. And it's called the Unreal Engine. It's essentially, if I understand correctly, it's software to generate the game landscape. And I think we're on Unreal Engine 6 right now.
Okay.
And what they did for the release of the PlayStation 5 and the fucking Xbox ones, they made a playable demo of a Matrix game to showcase the new Unreal Engine. And what they do is they got Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves to play themselves. And it's a hybrid of a cutscene and a playable demo. And what they do is they're talking to the camera and saying, like, they're playing themselves, and then it switches into the game, and it's so seamless. And I mean, you could tell they're computer generated, but the graphics just look so amazing. And then you get to play the demo as Trinity and a new recruit who's just been recently unplugged. And it's so cool. And I desperately want them to try to make this into a legitimate game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be really cool to make it purely original, make your own character, have their own story.
Sure.
But I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Who knows? Yeah, I would just assume that, thinking about it, because, up until now, I haven't really thought about the Matrix that much. And so I haven't really paid attention. And so thinking about it, I go, I guess there really hasn't been a lot of video games. And you would think, it would be like the video game,
Yeah, It's a perfect medium. Well, this isn't a spoiler, but video games and the Matrix go hand in hand in the fourth movie.
Can't wait.
But that's all I'm gonna say.
I want to talk a little bit more about the architect. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Because
I was gonna say, what are your questions that you have about him?
Well, okay. So things I like. First off, love the TV thing. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, that's really sick.
I like that we keep going in and out of the TVs. That's really cool. I like the idea of him being sort of a godlike figure, right? A sort of deity, right? That sort of matches Reeves's Messiah, right? The sort of Neo, being the Messiah. That's kind of cool. I also like that we're not sure if he's a real person or not, right? I think it's pretty it's understood that the Oracle is not a real person, right?
Yes.
She is a program. Okay.
Specifically a program designed by the machines.
Right. Which to me would indicate that you can't trust anything the Oracle says. Okay. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that Morpheus would even entertain any sort of prophecy that comes from the Oracle is laughable because, I mean, it's coming from the enemies, but that's fine. But the architect, I wasn't quite sure if we were supposed to discern one way or another yet, if he is a person or if he is a program, or if he is a program, who made him, and if he is a person, who is he, right?
No, the architect he's also a program.
Okay.
But I think if I remember the dialogue,
the dialogue's crazy. I couldn't follow it.
I think he was a program written specifically to create the Matrix.
Okay.
But I think it's more of he's a machine in the real world, and this is his digital version.
Got it.
At least that was always my interpretation once I finally, because you're not alone. I remember the first time I saw this movie, I literally was like, who the hell is this?
Yeah.
This makes no sense. What is going on? And it has taken multiple rewatches for me to finally figure out he's the one who designed the Matrix. And he's just a pompous, arrogant asshole.
Yeah. He was he was pretty narcissistic. I was, and again, like the language he was using, his lines were crazy. Like I was like, I don't. It was almost like it's almost like Boyd Crowder. So Boyd Crowder is a character played by Walton Goggins on Justified, and what's wonderful and so beautiful about his character is that he's very poetic in the way he speaks, even though he is this, down and out outlaw. But they say that he uses 80 words when 8 will do, right? Which I really like. However, where that is sort of a cool take on a sort of anti-hero villainous kind of not villainous character, which is Boyd Crowder, and it's interesting in a southern accent using southern soliloquies and an analogy and things like that in folk sayings. Here it was sort of like, dude, like I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what any of this is. It's like that was oversaturated with style too, because what I needed there was clear understanding of what's going on, right?
Yeah, I agree, especially considering Neo seems to understand exactly what he's saying.
And that made me feel stupid because I'm like, what's going on, right? How does he understand and I don't? And it's like, I also need to understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also, I mean, I don't know. It's like when CBS decided to, when they remade The Stand, do it out of order. The narrative, the plot is structured not in chronological order, which
Mm.
is insane, right? Because the book, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you've seen it, is this big.
I saw a copy at Barnes and Noble the other day, and I was like, Jesus.
And for you to understand everything that's going on, for you to know who is who and how they relate to one another and what their path is and their journey and where they are and all that stuff, you need it in order, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I need to hear. Like, I don't need this fancy cadence, this speech pattern, these words he's using, these soliloquies and these analogy and whatever. I don't need any of that, right?
You just need to understand, I designed the Matrix. This is the 6th time the anomaly has appeared. You have a choice. Either go that way,
Yeah,
doom all of humanity, or go that way
yeah.
and we will move to the 7th version.
You're the first one to be in love. That's weird. Anyway, go that way or that way. these
uh,
the ones usually don't do that. Anyway, that one.
You picked up on that quicker. You
Yeah.
must be smarter.
Huh. Who knew? Anyway, that way or that way.
No, I agree. Because it is kind of confusing, you know. Like I said, I remember the first time I actually saw the movie, and I was like, I don't understand any of this. And it's taken several rewatches to
Mhm.
fully understand and, I'll be honest, appreciate what he's actually saying.
Mhm.
Now, like, I fully get it.
Yeah.
But see, in my opinion, it shouldn't have had to been multiple rewatches. It should have been
Yeah.
1 or 2 times, and then I would have gotten it. Because I do agree that it is way too poetic, and I get it. I get what the Wachowskis were doing, because like you said, it was very stylized, that they're trying to be like, he's this big program. He is the designer of the Matrix.
Well, we've been
But it
leading. I
just
mean, they've been alluding to him the entire movie, basically, right?
mm-hmm.
That the one needs to get to the architect, right? That's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's, well, and this brings us to what I think is the highlight of the movie, which is the highway scene, which I'm sure people that love this movie or that are listening to this or watching this or whatever um, are like, dude, that's our favorite part. Why don't you talk about that? Okay. Like, to get him, obviously they needed the key maker and they needed blah blah blah, all that stuff.
Yeah, from the
And
Merovingian.
they needed to protect the key maker and all that stuff. And the highway scene is fucking rad, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
super cool.
with that techno do.
Yeah. it's super super cool. Shout out to
Yeah.
those weird dreadlock twins. They're super neat. I really liked them. I liked their design. I liked that they could kind of do different things, right? They weren't necessarily agents, they weren't like Agent
Mm-hmm.
Smiths or whatever. But they were still obviously adversaries, and I like that they could, they could go ghost prots, like they, I don't know what else to call it. They could go John Cena, and then just like melt through things. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Did you like that they used razor blades as like their main weapon?
Yeah,
like Sweeney Todd.
They were super super cool. And how long did you say it took them to shoot the highway?
If I saw if I saw it correctly and read it correctly, it took 3 months. Hang on. Everyone, shut up. Keep talking.
Makes perfect sense. It's a huge, huge sequence. I mean, it takes up 16 minutes or something. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's Sean Connery. Yeah. It took almost 3 months to shoot, longer than any film's entire shooting schedule.
Wow. Yeah. Which, and you can totally see it. I mean, it took a long time, but the payoff was worth it. I thought it was so cool, and this is where the stylized action, the oversaturation of style, this is where it all works, I think, in the highway sequence, for sure.
Well, and kind of going back a little bit to that playable demo I talked about, it was sort of kind of reminiscent of this, because like you're getting up on the freeway and shooting cars and trying to keep agents from jumping on your car and
cool,
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. And it definitely seems like the Wachowskis had also been building to this the whole movie too.
Yeah.
My favorite part of this is the end when the two 18-wheelers collide.
Yeah.
Like cool. That I wasn't mad about the slow-mo, because we get to see all the ripples.
Yeah, that was
in
neat.
The trailer. Yeah, dude. And then if you look carefully, you can see the fire like ignite underneath it and then explode. Like,
yeah, it's cool.
Which tells me that they actually did that in real life, so they had a reference of how it actually work. Or at least I would hope they would. I mean, that'd be pretty sick. But
little toy 18-wheelers. Or they're like Gomez Adams with their train sets, and they're gonna
dude. But yeah, it's, and I love how many moving parts that sequence has. They go from cars to motorcycles to, it's so cool, dude. Like,
it's a cool thing. I mean, the highlight.
Which again explains why it took them 3 months to do it.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a giant sequence. Overall, I would say the movie is fine.
Well, and like I said, in part 1, this was the point of the series, which is, because this is our first indication of the quality that's going to start to go down. Which again, this movie isn't bad in any way. It's still a really good movie with a lot of really good, compelling philosophical questions. It just seems like the Wachowskis, I wouldn't say they lost focus. I just think they were focusing on the wrong things.
I see.
That way, which would explain why they didn't stick the landing. Because I think if they had stuck the landing, I think this movie, I don't think it would have been better than the first one in terms of critically, but I think it would have been up there, closer to the first movie.
Yeah.
But then again, when we get to next week, it will explain why they didn't stick the landing.
Okay. Can't wait.
But Jeremy, are you ready to wrap up?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. I'm not mad at it. It was fun. Did I like it as much as Roger Ebert? No. Roger Ebert had a lot more fun with it than I did, which is fine. Fair. My expectation was to not like it at all. So pleasantly surprised. I thought a lot of the stuff was really cool. The Monica Bellucci sequences were really cool. I like.
She comes back in the next one.
Okay, good. I really liked her. I thought she was cool. Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, man. Like, I enjoy this movie. It's fun. It just if the Wachowskis hadn't lost that focus, I think it would have landed so much better. Anyway, yeah. Well, everyone, continuing obviously with this series, we will be doing The Matrix Revolutions, which I'm gonna be honest. Of the subtitles going forward, I don't like the next two just because Reloaded makes sense, because I feel like Reloaded was a double pun. Reloaded as in a computer program, but also as a gun, you know.
Yeah.
And then this next week, Revolutions. I'm like, no.
So I'm looking here. I mean, just to jump ahead just a little bit,
Okay.
I'm looking, and Resurrections is 2.5 hours. I don't know how I feel about that, but that'll be okay. Normally I don't bitch about stuff like that, but that seems a little long.
Well, and here's the thing. Okay, here's a little tease for next week. Because I am trying to set proper expectations with you. Because truthfully, I do not like 3 at all.
Seems to be the shortest one, so that's good, at least.
I think it's the worst. It adds nothing. Truly adds nothing.
Which sucks because it's supposed to be like the legitimate conclusion, if I'm to understand correctly. So I mean, like,
yes, it was initially meant to be the conclusion of the series. I'll hopefully remember by the 4th one why there was even a 4th one. But yeah, it was disappointing because, like I was saying with this one, that they didn't stick the landing. They definitely didn't stick the landing with the next one because it adds nothing, man. I mean, like, I understand. Again, still cheese. Like, I understand they did all their world building for this one, but like there still could have been more added, you know. And but again, you'll see next week when you finally watch it. I have a feeling you may agree with a lot of things I'm going to say for next week, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, we hope you enjoyed part 2 of our Matrix saga, and we will see you next week for Matrix Revolutions.